She signed the divorce papers with shaking hands, tore up the pregnancy test meant to change his mind, and walked out of his life in tears. But 5 years later, when she walked back into his office, she wasn't the same woman he left. She was his boss. Hello family, welcome to African Tales by Kairo. Please subscribe and drop a like, it means everything to us. Now sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. The morning sun slipped weakly through half-closed curtains, laying thin shadows over a silent bedroom. Once, that room was filled with laughter and warmth. Now, it looked like a cold museum of lost memories. Every picture frame, every small souvenir, whispered reminders of a life she once thought would never end. Maya sat on the edge of their king-sized bed. Her back was stiff, but her shoulders hung heavy, like her strength had drained away. In her hands, she held two things: a brown envelope with freshly signed divorce papers, and a small white stick with two faint pink lines. A positive pregnancy test. She hadn't planned to tell him like this. Her plan was simple: cook dinner, light candles, tell him the news with a nervous smile, and hopeful tears. But life can be cruel. It had stolen that moment, before it began. Across the room, Daniel stood with his back to her, buttoning his cuffs like a man already halfway out the door. His tone was cold, rehearsed. "I've made up my mind, Maya," he said. "I'm sorry if it feels sudden, but this is best for both of us." She stared at him, breath caught tight in her throat. "Best for both of us?" she repeated. "You're ending our marriage like it's some business deal gone wrong?" He turned, his expression unreadable. "I'm not happy," he said softly. "I haven't been for a long time. I met someone. I didn't plan for it to happen, but I'm in love with her." His words cut through her like a blade. No warning, no mercy, just pain, sharp and complete. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Air filled her chest, but her voice stayed trapped. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. "You met someone?" she whispered at last. "And your answer is to erase everything we built?" Daniel looked away. "Dragging this out will only make it worse," he muttered. She rose slowly, the pregnancy test still clenched in her trembling fist. "You don't even know what I came here to tell you," she said. He frowned slightly. "What?" Maya looked at him, and something inside her broke not just her heart, but the image of who she thought she was in his life. All those years of support. The quiet sacrifices. The sleepless nights believing their love was strong enough to last. She opened her hand and showed him the test. He blinked. "What is that?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The two pink lines said it all. Daniel said nothing. No joy. No surprise. No guilt. Just silence. That was the moment she realized he had already left her long ago. Her fingers shook as she stared down at the test. A sob clawed at her throat, but she refused to let it escape. With one fierce motion, she tore the test in half. The plastic cracked like fragile bone. The pieces hit the floor with a sound louder than it should have been. She walked past him, brushing his shoulder lightly as she moved toward the door. Her heels clicked against the wood, sharp, final, unforgiving. At the threshold, she stopped for one brief second, not to fight, not to beg, just to remember. Then she walked out. The door shut softly behind her, but to her ears, it sounded like a coffin closing. Outside, the October wind bit into her cheeks as she stepped into the pale morning light. Tears ran freely now. She had nothing left, only a broken heart and an empty womb. But somewhere deep inside, in the quiet space where pain turns into purpose, something began to stir. The apartment was barely more than a box peeling paint, flickering light, and a small window that faced a cracked brick wall. A thin mattress lay on the floor, unmade and cold. No curtains, no decoration, just silence, the kind that swallows you whole. Maya sat cross-legged on the mattress, wrapped in a thin shawl that barely kept out the chill. Her eyes stared blankly at the wall. Her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else, trapped in a life that no longer existed. It had been 3 weeks since she left Daniel. 3 weeks since the miscarriage. She hadn't told anyone, not a friend, not her family. The hospital discharge papers lay unopened in the bottom drawer of an old thrift store dresser. Her body had healed, but her soul hadn't. The physical pain faded with medicine, but the ache in her chest that stayed. That kind of wound doesn't heal with pills. She never thought she would end up like this, alone, jobless, invisible. She remembered the night she sat in a gas station bathroom 2 days after leaving him, pressing a blood-stained tissue to her leg and whispering, "Don't cry. Not here. Not now." She didn't cry then, but now she did. Softly, silently. Tears slid down her cheeks, as if they didn't need permission anymore. Then, one quiet evening, something shifted. It was small, a spark in the dark. She was scrolling her cracked phone, not searching for hope, just killing time. Then she saw a video titled, "Start Where You Are." It was grainy, filmed in a small library basement. A woman spoke about rebuilding after failure, about finding yourself again, about becoming someone your past wouldn't even recognize. Maya couldn't sleep that night. She opened her old laptop, untouched since the divorce, and started searching. There were free courses, e-books, online communities of people rising from rock bottom. She watched business tutorials while reheating noodles, took notes on marketing while wrapped in a blanket. She started volunteering at a co-working space just to be near people who were building something. Every day she gave herself one small goal: watch one video, update her resume, apply for one freelance job. Her first client was awful, underpaid her, overworked her, disrespected her. But she gave it her best because she knew someone might notice. And someone did. Soon, her name started to move quietly, slowly, but forward. She had no office, no capital, just hunger, clarity, and a heart rebuilt from fire. She worked nights, reading contracts at 2 a.m., sipping cheap coffee, teaching herself business through every mistake. She learned to read balance sheets like escape maps, leading her out of the pit. Days turned into months. She stopped counting the time since Daniel. The past no longer felt like a wound. It became her fuel. Pain had melted into strength. One day, while updating her calendar, she realized a full year had passed. No more mattress on the floor. Now she had a desk, a bank account that didn't cry when she opened it, a small team, a website. Her name, Maya Cooper, finally meant something. She never said it out loud, but every success felt like a quiet message to the woman. She used to be the one who walked out with tears in her eyes and a test in her hand. You're not done. You're not broken. You're becoming. The glass doors of Westbridge Holdings gleamed under bright lights, still tall, still cold, still proud. It was the empire Daniel once called his own. The logo had changed a little, sleeker now, but the soul of the place remained ruthless, charming, built on ambition. Maya stood outside for a moment before stepping in. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor, the sound sharp yet calm. She wore black, not for grief, but for power. A fitted suit, tall heels, and an expression carved from quiet strength. Not anger, not arrogance, just stillness. The kind of stillness that makes people hold their breath. A young receptionist looked up. "Name, please." Maya didn't answer right away. She reached into her bag and placed a silver badge on the counter. "Shareholder ID. Priority access. Maya Cooper." The receptionist blinked, confused, then checked the screen. Her name was there, but the title beside it made his eyes widen. Majority shareholder, Westbridge Holdings. He jumped up so quickly he knocked over his coffee. "I'm so sorry, Miss Cooper. The boardroom is ready for you. Maya nodded once and began walking through the same hallways she once crossed carrying Daniel's lunch, waiting quietly during his long meetings, unseen and unappreciated. Back then, she was invisible, just a shadow behind the man in power. But now, the air shifted as she passed. People whispered her name. She wasn't the woman who left in tears anymore. She was the woman who built herself from nothing, the woman who became everything. The assistant stood taller when she walked in. Even the elevator doors opened faster, like the building knew who she was now. At the top floor, the elevator opened to the private suite. The boardroom doors were wide open. Inside, men in dark suits sat around a long table, whispering to each other. The room was heavy with tension and worry. The company had been losing money for over a year. Bad deals, failed projects, poor management. Daniel had kept things together with charm and lies, but the board was tired of pretending. When Maya entered, every head turned. Daniel stood at the front, arms folded. His words stopped mid-sentence when he saw her. For a moment, no one said a word. Even the bright city outside seemed to hold its breath. Maya walked to the empty chair at the end of the table. It was the chair for the most powerful shareholder. She pulled it out, sat down calmly, crossed her legs, and opened a leather folder. Her voice was smooth and firm. "Gentlemen, I think we can begin." Daniel cleared his throat, trying to sound in control. "Maya, I wasn't expecting." "You should have," she said without looking up. "The board approved the deal 3 weeks ago. I now own 53.2% of Westbridge Holdings." The room fell silent. A pen slipped from someone's hand and rolled across the table. Daniel blinked, hoping she was joking. But her face showed nothing but calm strength. This was not the same woman who had cried over him. This woman had walked through fire and come out steel. "How did you?" he began. She looked up. "I bought your top 3 competitors. Then I took over your debt when you went public. When your stock price dropped after that failed deal in April, I bought the rest." She let the words hang in the air. "I've been watching for a long time." Daniel's face turned red. "Why?" he asked. "Business," Maya said simply. But behind that word lived everything she never said out loud. She didn't come for revenge. She came for control, for power, for the seat that once ignored her. "From now on," she said, "every big decision must go through the board. And since I'm the board now, I'll rebuild this company from the ground up." Daniel's fists tightened under the table. His empire, the one he built, now belonged to her. He opened his mouth to speak, but she was already standing. "I've set another meeting for Thursday. Until then, read the new policy changes." At the door, she paused. "Oh, and Daniel, your assistant will now report to my office. If you need something, send a request through me." She walked out without looking back. The room fell into a silence so deep it almost hurt. The executive suite on the 37th floor had always been Daniel's world, all glass and chrome. A place that showed power and money. Every corner screamed control leather chairs, fancy bar, golden lights. But now, it felt smaller. He sat at his desk, staring at his laptop screen. He wasn't reading anything. His tie was loose, his collar open. Papers were everywhere, messy and forgotten. His hands, once steady, now tapped nervously with a pen. She hadn't just come back, she had arrived. Quiet, sharp, and stronger than ever. And for the first time, Daniel understood something new. He needed her. Not for love, not for comfort, but for survival. Because without her, his company would fall apart. His phone buzzed. An email from Maya Cooper's office. Subject: Executive Structure and Department Changes. The message said, "Please read the attached documents. Your approval is not required. Only your acknowledgement." Daniel let out a small, bitter laugh. A knock came on the door. It wasn't her. It was Caleb, his COO. He entered quietly, careful with his words. "I just came from the meeting," Caleb said. "Maya's plans are fast, but smart. HR is already cutting waste and hiring new consultants." Daniel said nothing. "She knows what she's doing," Caleb added. Daniel turned his chair slowly. "She always did," he said softly. "I just didn't see it." Caleb nodded and left. The door closed, leaving Daniel alone with his thoughts. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the skyline. Memories flooded in the early days with Maya, when they were young and broke. He saw her again, sitting on the kitchen floor, reading business books aloud, while he built his dreams. She was his quiet partner, his secret mind. And he had thrown her away. He hadn't thought about the pregnancy test since that day. He told himself it didn't matter. He told himself it was over. But now, she was the storm that shook his world. 2 days later, a message arrived. A meeting invite from Maya Cooper. Private strategy session. 9 a.m. sharp. He reached her office early. It was bigger than his old one, bold and clean. Black stone, white walls, one big painting, and a heavy dark desk. Behind her, sunlight poured through tall glass windows. She didn't look up when he entered. She was writing, her pen moving slow and sure. When she finally looked up, her face was calm. "Daniel," she said, "sit down." He obeyed quietly. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was powerful. "I wanted to talk to you," Daniel said finally, his voice low. Maya tilted her head slightly, waiting. "I've been thinking." He said, "About the past, about us. I was selfish. I told myself I wanted happiness, but I was really running from pain, from work, from you." She stayed silent, watching him. "And the baby," he added softly. "I didn't even ask about it." "No," she said calmly. "You didn't. You just wanted an easy escape." He nodded, his eyes heavy. "I'm sorry." She looked at him for a long moment. "Are you sorry for what you did?" she asked. "Or for what it cost you?" He didn't answer. "You want forgiveness," she said. "But you don't know what it means to ask for it." Daniel leaned forward. "I miss you, Maya. I miss what we had. Seeing you now, I realize I didn't just lose a wife. I lost my partner, the best part of me." She looked at him, not angry, not sad, just clear. "Do you love me now, Daniel?" she asked. He swallowed. "Yes." "No," she said gently. "You love the idea of me. The version that rose from pain. But the woman who once loved you? She died the day I signed those papers and tore that test." Silence filled the room. "I don't hate you," she said softly. "But I won't go back. That woman begged you to see her. This one doesn't need you to." Daniel looked down. All his power, charm, and pride faded in that moment. He was a man left empty, not by anger, but by truth. Maya stood, closing her folder. "Our work continues," she said. "You'll stay on as a consultant. Your shares are now under review." She walked toward the door without looking back. Her heels echoed against the floor, slow, steady, final. The sound faded, leaving Daniel alone with silence and the ghost of everything he once lost. "You'll report to Caleb, not to me." Daniel looked up, hollow-eyed. "That's it?" he asked. "That's mercy," Maya said, opening the door. "Good morning, Daniel." And with that, she walked out, not in pain, not in anger, but in full command of a world that once ignored her voice. The apartment was quiet, not the cold, empty quiet she once knew, but a soft, peaceful one, the kind that comes after surviving every storm. City lights blinked through her window, painting golden lines across the white walls. She sat barefoot on her cream-colored couch, legs tucked beneath her, a cup of cold tea on the table. In her hands was a small wooden box, old, faded, familiar. She hadn't opened it in years, not since she promised herself she would never look back. But tonight, after facing Daniel, after hearing his apology, something inside her stirred. Not sadness, not pity, something else, something calm and clear. She opened the box slowly, like opening a memory. Inside were only three things: the torn pieces of a pregnancy test, a photo of her and Daniel laughing at the beach, and a folded letter she never sent. She unfolded it carefully. Her handwriting looked rushed and uneven. She began to read, "You didn't ask, you didn't even look. I was going to tell you. I thought maybe the baby would change something. Maybe you'd remember us. Maybe you'd see me again. But you didn't ask, and maybe that's my fault too, for believing I mattered more than your pride." Maya placed the letter gently on the couch. She leaned back, eyes on the ceiling, and let out a long breath. No anger, no tears, just understanding, sharp but clean. Daniel's apology didn't move her. His regret did, because now she saw what he never did, that she was never weak. Her kindness had been mistaken for fragility, her silence for emptiness. But she had carried her pain through fire and turned it into strength. She stood, carrying the box into the kitchen. There, she lit a small candle. Its flame flickered softly in the dark. One by one, she placed the test, the photo, and the letter beside it. Then she picked up a lighter and paused. Her fingers trembled only, for a second, before she let the fire touch the paper. The tissue curled first, then the letter, then the photo. As the flames ate through the memories, she felt no sorrow, only peace. When nothing but ash remained, she ran the water and washed it all away. Later that night, she stood on her balcony. The cool city breeze brushed her face. Her eyes were dry. Her heart was full, not with revenge or pride, but with quiet peace. Peace in knowing she no longer needed him to break to feel whole. Peace in knowing she had healed fully, deeply. Peace in knowing she had become someone new. The past was no longer a chain. It was only an echo. And she had finally learned not to turn when it called. The next morning, the Grand Meridian Hotel was glowing with lights and cameras. Journalists filled the ballroom. It was the press conference everyone had been waiting for. A black backdrop carried the gold emblem of Westbridge Holdings. Cameras flashed. The air buzzed with excitement. Maya stood behind the podium, dressed in a white suit, clean, calm, powerful. A small gold phoenix pin shimmered on her chest. She looked out at the crowd and began, her voice steady and strong. "Good morning. 5 years ago, I walked away from a life that no longer served me. I had nothing, only my name, my will, and my truth. Today, I stand before you as the majority shareholder of the same company that once overlooked me," the crowd murmured. But Maya didn't pause. "I didn't come back for revenge. I came back for change, to rebuild what was broken, and to prove that no one is ever too small to rise again." Her words hit the room like quiet thunder. "I've done what I came to do. This company is stronger, fairer, and ready for the future. But this isn't my end. It's only my beginning." She looked straight into the cameras. "Effective today, I'm stepping down as majority shareholder and moving all ownership into the RISE initiative, a trust that will fund women-led startups, trauma recovery programs, and leadership schools for young girls who deserve a chance to be heard." The room erupted in applause. Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. This wasn't performance. It was purpose. "I won't be staying in this city," she finished softly. There are more stories to build, more voices to lift. This chapter ends today. That evening, after the cameras were gone, Maya walked the quiet corridor to the executive lounge. Daniel was already there, standing by the window, staring at the city lights. He turned as she entered. "You always did know how to make an exit," he said quietly. Maya leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "And you always knew how to ruin a good thing." He nodded, not angry, just honest. "I wanted to thank you," he said, "for not destroying me when you could have." Mercy isn't weakness, Daniel. It's control. He looked at her, the woman he once took for granted, now beyond his reach. "I still love you," he whispered. Maya's gaze softened. "No, Daniel. You love the version of me that waited. The one that hoped love would be enough." He looked down. "I don't hate you," she added quietly. "I've already moved through it. The pain, the loss, all of it. Now I'm free." She placed an envelope on the table beside him. "What is it?" he asked. "Closure," she said. "Read it, or don't. Either way, it's the last thing I'll ever give you." He nodded, unable to speak. Maya turned and walked out. No tears. No anger. No glances back. Outside, the wind brushed her hair as she stepped into the car. The driver held the door open. "Where to, ma'am?" he asked. She smiled faintly, looking out at the skyline, the city that once knew her as a whisper. "Airport," she said. The car pulled away. No music. No noise. Just the quiet sound of the road and the steady heartbeat of a woman finally free. No longer the wife who cried. No longer the woman who begged. Not even the empire builder. She was Maya Cooper, whole, strong, and home within herself. We've reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to Tea African Tales by Kairo. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.